E-L-O-E-J, a little aloha in our day. Spread a little aloha around the world at breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Pacho Man. Welcome, everybody. This is Breakfast with Bob, Not Quite Kona edition. We are brought to you by Quintana Roo, Forum Smart Swim Goggles, Master Spas, Hoka One One, Premium Plus Sports, and of course, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. In 2022, we sent out 3,256 grants, totaling $6.2 million to keep challenged athletes in the game of life through sport. Our next guest has been on a major role, silver medal at Ironman World Championship. That was her first time doing Ironman World Championship, and then followed that up by going, 7:31:54 at the sub 8 challenge. Kat Matthews joins us. Kat, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Bob?
I am spectacular, but not as spectacular as you are. You know, it's funny when I look at those two races and I look at, getting the silver there, and you're going toe to toe with Daniela Ryf at that point, the 4-time Ironman World Champion on the bike. You guys going back and forth a little bit. And then during the run, you got 2019 Ironman World Champion Annie Haug breathing down your back, and people are going, "Oh my God, Annie's that's what she does. She's gonna run by Kat," and you hold her off. And then you go and do the 7:31:54, and you're racing. You're racing against the gold and silver medalist, and Nicola Spirig, and she goes by you in a run, and then you're like, "Oh, wait a second, no, I'm going to go back by her," and you did. You went toe to toe against some of the greatest triathletes in history, and came out and did really a phenomenal job. What did you gain from that month of great experiences?
Oh, so many things. Yeah, I mean, that's a really cool way of thinking about it. Thanks for consolidating it like that, I guess. Yeah, it was a really good month. I guess I learned that I need to just keep believing that I am, competitive.
Yes, you are.
Which sounds silly, but obviously relatively new, but I don't feel like that's an excuse. Well, it definitely won't be after Kona this year. That's me done, no longer a newbie. But yeah, it's cool. It's really exciting. I know that I'm sort of, I'm just starting out in a way, right. But again, no excuse, just that's where I'm at. And it's just really cool to have this race experience straight away and be with Daniela, like you said, at St. George, we were leading the race. I mean, I was actually at the front for a very short time, and it was the coolest experience.
And she loved it. She did in her sound bites afterwards. She was like, "This is so cool that here's Kat going by me. She's going by me on a bike." And it wasn't like, "Oh God, I'm so bummed." It was like, "This is great. We've got a race going here. We're going to go back and forth." Well, at some point, she put a little gap. But the key is, you don't win races if you're afraid to go to the lead, right? You have to be able to put yourself out there to the point where maybe it doesn't work this time, to know if you can win or not, right?
Yeah, and that was one of my aims for St. George, was to just go and try and actually win. I've never really done that before, not in a big championships or even a smaller one, because I've known there's another athlete who's just better. So what's the point in, why not just race within myself? And yeah, St. George was the first time where I was like, okay, I'm gonna try. And I thought I could outbike Daniela. Right. In hindsight, obviously that was a silly idea.
No, but it wasn't.
I tried, yeah.
Exactly. And you don't know.
I definitely paid for it on the run. It was the hardest experience I've had. So again, I just use that now, and I try and put that into, I guess I tried to put it into sub 8 and sort of reversed the idea. So in theory, it was meant to be a slightly easier bike, so I could then have a harder run. On reflection, the bike actually wasn't that much easier. It was just an hour less time, or 50 minutes or so. So yeah, it's all this constant drawing in these little lessons and trying to optimize the perfect race. One day in the future, I'll get it.
Well, and the other side of this, I mean, you only became a pro in 2019. This is all very new, and there's, once you become at the level you're at, Now there's expectations. Now, when you go into the race, everybody wants to talk to you. Now, I remember talking to Craig Alexander, and he goes, but that's why we do this. If people didn't want to talk to me going into a race, what does that say? It doesn't say much about me, my sponsors, everything else. So, you start having to go, this is part of my preparation for a race. I've got to be ready to do a week's worth of interviews and be prepped before that, so that, that has to be part of the preparation, knowing I'm one of the best, I'm here to win the race, and people want to talk to me about it. That's a little different than when you first started out, right?
Yeah, pretty. Yeah, it is. And again, it's hard. Like you say, it's a real challenge. And I guess I felt like I've stepped up to that at St. George, but again, it will probably be different again for Kona. So who knows? And I'm just trying to take it race by race and see how it goes, and just try and get the balance right. I'm not sure if you ever do, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, getting the balance right is you'll be doing that your whole career. You're trying to figure out what exactly is the right thing to do. So you're 7 minutes back at Daniela off the bike in St. George. Annie's back in fourth place, 15 minutes back. And there's a number of places where you see each other on the run course. When you saw Annie, I'm sure it looked like she was flying. Were there points where you were thinking, she's going to get me?
Yeah, to be honest, it was a bit like with the sub-8. I realized that I was running slower than Anne and Nicola for sub-8, and from the first few K. So after St. George, at about the 10K point, obviously you've got the up and the downhill. So I tried to think of that as one section. And Anne had taken, I don't know, like 4 minutes or something ridiculous out of me.
Yep.
And so I was like, well, this is inevitable. Keep fighting for third. It's still a podium at the World Championships. Podium. I was just kept repeating that in my head rather than thinking, oh, I've come third to Anne. It's, I'd already accepted that. And then I guess a tiny part of me thought maybe, Daniela could blow up. She's done it before. Everybody in theory could just have a really difficult last 10K. So there was a tiny bit of me that was like, maybe she went off too hard. I didn't really think she would have, but you still hope, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I was actually getting worried about Lisa Norden as well. She was coming from behind, and I was like, right, just third. I didn't want to come fourth. I came fourth at the 70.3 World Champs, and I was like desperate to get on the podium at this one.
Oh my God. But does it go through your mind too? If she's taking this much time out of me, she could be hurting herself too. It's going to be really hard for her to maintain this.
It's hard to think that. I think like you have to assume that somebody's set off at a pace that they're capable of running the marathon at. And it's only if something really goes wrong that they won't be able to sustain it. But in hindsight, it's not hindsight, but lots of people seem to go off too hard. And I think but you can never assume they are. So I think for me, I just have to accept that I now know, like with sub-8 and St. George, that there is this, I guess, higher chance that I'm able to sustain in that last 10K than somebody else.
Right. And the other side of the St. George, you were second, Ruth was fifth, Laura was seventh, Fenella was eighth. Look at the Brits, man. You guys are kicking butt at the World Championships.
So good. It's so good. I've got nothing more to add except for, I guess, it was one of those championships where we had a few dropouts, but getting to the start line fit and healthy is part of the challenge. So to see you see this number of Brits who are there healthy and in the top 12, that's saying that we're a force, not of just physical performance, but we're achieving the balance, I think exactly. as a nation. It's fun. I mean, we didn't win, so a Brit on the top step and then a load in the top 10 would be the next coolest thing, I think.
That's the next thing. Oh, that's Kona. You got that coming up. You got plenty of time to win that thing. So now you're a month away from this sub-8 and after second at St. George, and the logistics of that thing. When I started thinking about somebody pacing in the swim and then the bike and people are pulling off and coming back on and someone on a run. I mean, just thinking about the sub-8 is enough, but you're also racing. You're also racing another person. So you're either first or you're last, basically. Right?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the logistics and how important the crew side of that was for that event.
I think it was ultimately the most important part. If you take out, the bike made or break, made or broke the race for me or Nicola. So after St. George, I was just trying to get healthy again, recover, settle back in, fly back to Europe, settle, try and do a little bit of exercise, but also embrace the fact I'd just come second. So I was wanting to celebrate with my husband and just friends, and have spare time after a race. So you actually get time to go and see your family and friends. And it's like, oh goodness, I've actually got to do another marathon and an Ironman in, now only 3 weeks time.
Yeah.
So Mark, my husband, actually took over, or he had always, when we went into sub 8, we had divided the role very I think equally. I just did the race,
Yeah,
and Mark did everything
else.
Along with Tim and James from Manor, of course. But so the logistics of bringing everyone together was actually a lot. I didn't have to do that burden. Mark was in constant comms with the team and just making sure they were all happy. He even got a van, picked up all their bikes from around the country, brought them all, drove over to Germany. He sorted everything. The event itself was so easy. They sorted all the transfers, all the, everything was so easy when we got in country. So actually, even though it sounds very challenging, there were a lot of things that were, that helped us.
Right.
But a WhatsApp group with people pinging things back and forth is like the biggest motivation. So despite the logistical challenge, having 10 girls who are like dead keen to help you do this really epic challenge is the biggest motivation. So it was hard. It was hard emotionally and physically to get healthy again to race, but equally it was for a team event. And so I drew on that rather than just focusing on myself.
Yeah. And the 350 bike ride.
Yeah. I had hoped to swim a bit quicker, but I hadn't really thought I would ever outswim Nicola. So at the end of the swim, I was in the best position possible, really, to get out on the road in front of them, gave us the road to use as well as we wanted. We hadn't expected them to ride as well, which was naive of us, but they also said their bike split time was going to be like 4:20 or something.
Wow.
When we had before the race, we had thought that 45k an hour doing 4 hours was going to be, that would be like gold standard. But in the week before the race, leading up to it, we were able to access and train on the track, and we realized that 45k an hour would probably be the minimum. We were perhaps able to go, nearer 47, but I was a bit skeptical whether we'd been able to maintain that. And I thought that it would be the power at the front of the pack of the cycle chain that would be the limiter, not me at the back. I thought I was going to have an easy ride. No. At 47.2k an hour, my heart rate was still at the same as it was averaging for St. George. So I was still working just as hard in that chain. Because of a few different things. Obviously, you're concentrating on the wheel, you're trying to still maintain as error as possible, but you're still working really hard to go that fast, even on the back of 4 or 5 other athletes. So we could have, I think, improved the tactics, again, hindsight. But there might be another chance, who knows. 350 was decent. I think we could have gone faster, and I think we had hoped for a bigger gap off the bike to the other team.
Yeah, you don't want Nicola in the same zip code.
No.
Bike. Yeah.
No.
We've seen her do that. Yeah, 46.9k per hour. That's pretty special, right? That's what it was, I think. So now you've got for the run, you have an ultra runner. How did you come up with were you in terms of who you're considering for pacing?
So I knew that I would have India Lee and Ruth Astle, who had done swim and bike already.
Right.
And then we were allowed up to 10, obviously. So having somebody who I knew was going to be very consistent, reliable, emotionally supportive. I knew Neris Jones she's in the PT corps, which is like our physical training corps, who train our soldiers in the army. So I've raced with her in triathlon for like the last few years through the army. I've done running events with her. Mark actually knows her from Nordic skiing. She used to like GB biathlon. She's like one of those incredible athletes who does everything and is amazing at everything, but also her main focus is obviously her, you know, her job and training soldiers. So yeah, she was the third pacer on the run.
So the other side, I'm sure you were exhausted and exhilarated after the race, but I was thinking to myself, Mark must have been a mess coordinating all the bikes, getting them all there, making sure if somebody had a mechanical, if just somebody, you know, their bike didn't show up, just all the emotional baggage that he had to be dealing with that whole week, because anything that went wrong on his end was going to affect you. So there was a lot of pressure on that guy.
Yeah, massive pressure. And I think people think, oh, you know, this, you know, the other half always has this pressure, but in a normal triathlon,
right,
it's all my responsibility, really. You know, I have to make sure my gels are in the right place. I put my bike in transition. I have to set up my T2. You know, I'm the one in charge. I get my own nutrition on the run, for example. Like, I've planned all of that. Yes, obviously you have support, but you have to physically do it. Whereas with sub 8, not just me, like Mark had to set up the transitions. He had to make sure my shoes were in the right place. He had to, or make sure someone else had done it. And then he had to make sure that I had, you know, if I was like, I want an orange gel, he had to go and find the right gel from where, you know, his pocket, because he hadn't got a bum bag. And yeah, and then, you know, get the girls to, we actually were doing mini teams on the bike, and they were switching out in threes. And so there was one lap where one of the teams missed the changeover. So the team that was already cycled 3 or 4 laps were like, no, we'll stay on. And we had this whole like, oh, what's going on? One of the girls had already stopped. 2 of the others just cracked on for another lap. And then obviously we had to get the other 3 out for the next lap. So it was just this constant communication challenge.
Wow.
But I think that's basically like Mark's forte. He loves that dynamic logistical challenge. You know, his experience in the army has probably set him up well to react under pressure like that.
Now, did you have communication? Did you have a headset or anything like that during that race?
So we had the option to have radios, and we had them with us. It was a bit of a choice. Some of the girls on the bike wanted them. I wasn't sure if I was going to use it or not. I hadn't practiced using it, obviously. Probably should have done, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I wanted it. Mark had put it on my bike at the start of the race, and I tried to put it in underneath my aero helmet while I was trying to, you know, we were already going at 47.5k an hour after 200 meters or something. So it was a bit of a struggle. And then all I got was just some static. And I was like, no, I'm not having this.
Not even music. What the hell?
Oh yeah, no. I'm not sure if there would be too much distraction. It really was a big effort to concentrate so hard for so long on the wheel, whilst trying to preserve energy as well.
Yes. You start looking at people who bike race for a living and think, oh, this maybe that's not, because a lot of times we think, oh gosh, you got your domestiques, and you just sit back there and eat a sandwich and you'll be fine. When you're going that hard, it doesn't matter if you're behind them or in front. You're going to be going hard.
I don't know, actually. I'm not sure if the guys, even in the peloton, are ever riding at, you know, LT2 for 4 hours. I don't know. I'd have to look at the data. I think they spike a lot more than this. This was a, you know, sustained 4-hour effort. I'm not even sure. Yeah, I don't think there is even 180k team time trial in the world. So it was
exactly. Yeah.
Even the cyclists were saying this is crazy.
This is crazy. They never, sustained effort, and no, not like a crit effort where you're getting out of the saddle and hammering. You got to you have to maintain that entire time. So about 18k in a run, Nicola goes by, right? Something like that.
I think it was more like 28.
Was it 28? Okay. 28k, she goes by. And so when she goes by, your original thought is what? Okay, she's gone, or okay, I'm going to go get her.
Yeah, she's gone. Like I said before, I think it was after a couple of K, I realized she was going to catch me. So it had taken surprisingly long. I thought it was going to come earlier, and I might have got that wrong, but I think, by the time she came past, I just wanted to make sure, if you watch the footage, like, I wanted to make sure that I kept my line to the aid station. She actually overtook at a really odd time. Again, I don't know if that was deliberate or not. I think they were just maintaining a pace.
Yeah.
I just wanted to keep, the line to the aid station. Well, for the girls, my paces to get to the aid station to get me ice, which is a gift. And yeah, I that was it, gone. There was no part of me that was like, I'm going to try and increase my speed to match her, because that's
Right.
not how you can run. I don't think after 6 hours or 7 hours you can just do that without a detriment.
Without burning more matches and
Still
really
had
digging a hole.
14 kilometers to run. That's still over an hour I had left. Yeah.
Yeah. But then something clicked and you went and passed her.
So maybe I actually maintained my pace throughout the whole thing.
Yes.
So in my head, I think it was a couple of things that sort of happened at the same sort of time. I had been focusing on the 30k point as my like safety zone in a way, because I'd broken the 14 laps up into 5, and then 4 at the end to play with. And so I got to the 30k point, she'd come past me and I was like, cool, fine. Like, it's really hard to motivate myself at that point, because what's the point? I'm already second.
Right.
What am I racing for? And I said that to Mark and he was like, just, I don't know what he said. He was like, come on, well, keep trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, cool, but I'm in second, it's hard. But I just kept going with my pace. And I guess at that point, like I said, 30k, I was like, cool, I'm gonna just keep going. And my heart rate was drifting up a little bit at this point. But it was maybe just 2k later, I think, that Nicola she just blew. Maybe lost like 20 seconds in that kilometer. I picked up maybe 5 seconds a kilometer for 1 kilometer as I passed her, just because it was like a natural, you're going past someone, you sort of relax your shoulders, you look good. And yeah, I didn't do anything special. I just kept going and she blew up. So it wasn't me.
If someone told you beforehand that you would be within a minute of her in the marathon, I mean, 2:45:07, 2:46:09, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had hoped to run faster. It's obviously a run PB, so no part of me, and that first 10k, I was like, even though I felt a bit rubbish and Nicola was thrashing me, I was like, I'm still on for a run PB. Like, don't stress too much. My run training up to St. George hadn't been great. My run at St. George hadn't been great. And then I had got run fit again after St. George. I'd done 2 training sessions where I was like, this is okay. This is like marathon. This is fine. So I wasn't feeling, I said to my coach the day before, I was like, I think I've got a 2:45 in me at the absolute best. Whereas maybe 2 months ago, I had hoped to be closer to the 2:40, 2:42.
Wow.
If I had had a perfect build up. But again, that was off a really easy bike, and this wasn't an easy bike. So I don't know. So yeah, I was happy with the run, but Nicola's marathon experience is obviously much, I think, I don't know how many marathons she's done, but off the bike marathons, obviously this is only the second one she's done, and this was my 6th.
Right. Yeah, you have more experience than that. But you have to be thinking in terms of Olympic gold and silver. So when you talk about leg speed, you didn't want to be coming down the last stretch next to her.
We actually had a joke. We were messing around the day before at the press conference, and I sort of said to her, we were playing around at the finish line, just chatting, and I was like, because obviously I know about her sprint finish of Lisa, and so I was like, who do you think would win in a sprint finish? And I was sort of giving myself a little bit of kudos here. I was like, I think I would. And she was like, me, obviously, it's my speciality. And I was like, oh yeah, must remember that. Because I actually give myself, I think I'm actually quite a fast runner. Like, I can run a 3-minute K, but I can run a 2:50.
Yeah.
I could, for somebody who might not, you might not think as a fast runner, as in like, a sprinter. I actually have a weird amount of sprinting capability. So I think that could have been fun.
That would have been really fun. Yeah. So when you finish this thing, so you've had this amazing month with the silver medal and then going sub-8. Then how did things change? A ton of media. How did you guys recover from all of that? And then what are the plans for the rest of the year?
Yeah, it was pretty full on. I only lost my bad word. I only lost my head at one interview saying, because they were late, and I was like, this is unacceptable. There was so much stress on time over that whole week, and then afterwards it was quite it was a challenge. I didn't really feel like I was able to properly relax because I had maybe 3 meetings a day of interviews, and it was totally my choice, and it's great. It's obviously part, like you were saying before, it's part of the job. I have to do it, but because it's a choice and it doesn't feel fun to me, it's not going out and riding my bike. It's hard to see the benefit of it, but obviously I know there is a professional benefit there. But also, like the event, the sub-8 event, the purpose of it was to spread the word, inspire, and
Exactly.
and the post-race bit was just as important as the race itself.
Yes.
So it was cool to be able to be like, yeah, I did it, and like, you can do it if you want to do it. I love that message. But going forwards, I'm just getting back into training now.
Good. I'm glad you took a good block off. You deserve that.
I mean, I took 2 weeks off any structure, which I think is like the minimum amount of time for me. I still kept my swimming up, which right now I'm really grateful for. Till Kona. Well, 14 and a half.
You're back.
Counting down already. Yeah, counting down already to Kona.
And with when will you guys go to Maui beforehand? What are your plans?
So got the Collins Cup in August. I might try and do a training camp somewhere hot before that, and then after that I'll go out to Texas to do a weather-esque camp, race the PTO Dallas race, and then go into Kona just the week before, I think.
So you won't do Edmond, the Canadian Open?
I won't be able to be mentally or physically fit.
No, just a couple of weeks from now. Yeah.
And like I did some tempo sessions yesterday. There's no way it would be healthy for me to get over and race in Canada at the moment. So I'm a bit gutted. I understand the implications of the PTO rankings, and I really want to be there, but it's really
smart thing to do. The prize is in Kona, and the Collins Cup, but the prize is in Kona.
And I'll be at Dallas as well, so that's quite cool.
Oh yeah, very fun stuff. Yeah, did you, in terms of your body after the race, after that full month, were you surprised that you were more beat up than you thought, less beat up than you thought?
After sub-8, I was less beat up, but I was way more beat up after St. George.
Brutal.
So that blew my body to bits.
Yes, everybody.
Yeah. And brain for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then getting back healthy to sub-8 was hard. Sub-8 was actually quite controlled because of the nature of the event. It was completely my control. There was no real other influencing factors. So it's completely different to World Championships where you have to go out of your comfort zone and come back in. Like I was with Daniela on the bike, sub-8 in theatre, like my resting heart rate was happy, very happy just 2 days afterwards. I was like, oh, you always think, oh, maybe I should have gone harder. I'm not saying I could have, but it fills you with confidence when your body's able to recover from something like that.
So did you get to spend much time with Nicola? Because then I'm assuming you hadn't spent a lot of time with her before that.
No, we'd bumped into each other once at a race before. So yeah, that whole week, all of the teams, so the 4 athletes and all of their teams and all of the support staff and all of the event was all in one hotel with one dining room. So it was actually a really, really cool environment, a bit like the Collins Cup, where everybody sat around at breakfast and dinner, chatting, mixing up. And so I spoke to Nicola, a lot, but because you're with your whole team, that's your focus, and you're in and out, going to swimming training, getting to the track, coordinating with the cycling girls. Like, it was full on. Good for you.
Kat, congratulations. What a great experience. That sub-8, everybody was watching, and it's such a different, when you're an individual athlete doing something as a team. Didn't you find it was sort of a really cool experience?
It was the best. I love that about the sport. I can't believe I've come into the sport and in this era of the PTO with the Collins Cup, with Team Europe, and now the Phoenix Sub-8, Team Cat. Like, it was these like you say, individual sports with a team element is like the dream for me, because I've come from team sports. Right. So now I'm getting to do my own sport, but with other people. Yeah, it's the dream.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking time, Kat. Always a pleasure. Hopefully we'll see you at either Collins Cup or US Open.
Yeah, and then in your background, hopefully on the beach.
You will be with us in Haug's in October, and you'll get to reunion with Poncho Man.
I'm so stoked. Thanks for having me, Bob.
Kat Matthews has been our guest, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. See ya.